People think owning a big chunk of land means freedom, solitude, serenity, like you're out there above the noise, untouchable, breathing in peace and salt air. And for a while, that's exactly what I had. I bought those 26 acres on the edge of San Diego because I wanted my own slice of sky, a place where my only neighbors were gulls, wind, and maybe the ghost of some old prospector. My cliff looked out on the Pacific waves, battering rock like they had something to prove. Time itself just hammering its initials into stone. I was 39 back then, a geologist with a cushy consultant gig working from home. My world was simple drone flights over the ridgeline, stacks of core sample reports, the hum of my laptop, and peace. But peace, yeah, it's never permanent, is it? One Thursday morning while I'm hunched over my notes, I hear this noise low, mechanical too sharp for lawn equipment. Not the usual soundtrack for serenity. It grated like a saw chewing through a metal pipe and ambition at the same time. So I do what any bored geologist with a drone would do. I launch it, let it fly past the scrub and over that wild western edge of my land, the bit that just drops into the ocean like God's own balcony. And what do I see? Excavators, orange fencing, porta potties, and a sign screaming, "Future site of Ocean Cliff Retreat, private access for Ocean Heights residents only." Hard hats everywhere. My land, no, maybe about it mine. They'd scraped the ground, dug into the slope, even planted a trailer office right at the cliff's edge. I just stood there staring at the video feed, coffee cooling in my hand, heart in my throat. Now let me back up a sec. That stretch of my property isn't just pretty, it's tricky. Geology speak. It's a marginally stable formation. Means you might get away with building there until you don't. You need permits, assessments, signatures, basically an entire bureaucratic circus. You don't just put up a deck for the view. You respect the land or it'll bury you. I drove out so fast I left a rooster tail of gravel behind. By the time I got there, the foreman's waving a site plan and a city permit in my face signed by some assistant planning commissioner, Alan Remy. The document claims the land is municipal edge property managed by the HOA, like it's Martian territory or something. I told the guy in plain English, "This is my property." He shrugs. "Take it up with the city. We're just doing our job." You know, that kind of calm that only makes you angrier. Yeah, that happened. That night I tore apart every document I had: title deeds, old maps, boundary surveys. 8 years I'd owned that land. GPS tag notarized my name on it in more ways than most people could dream. If anything, I had too much proof. Next morning I'm at City Hall, folders under my arm, jaw locked, waiting 2 hours just to get FaceTime with Remy. He barely glances at me, says the approval came down because the application didn't list an owner, which means it defaults to the city. I ask who filed the application. He stalls, then says Ocean Heights View, HOA. President Karen Mason. Let me tell you about Karen Mason. If entitlement was an Olympic sport, she'd have more gold than Michael Phelps. Met her once at a sustainability fair, argued with a vendor about organic strawberries. Met her again when she blocked a fire hydrant with her Tesla and smiled when I called her out. Apparently Karen decided my cliff was unused, so it was up for grabs. By the weekend, they had construction lights, spa, music, decking a fenced-off path, signs everywhere. Ocean Cliff residents only. They even put a portable bar on the bluff less than 20 feet from a known fault crack. I shouted across the fence, "This is private property." Guy with a level shrugs. They told us it wasn't. I realized then this wasn't just arrogance. This was a hostile takeover. By Monday, deliveries, tile teak furniture, a freaking jacuzzi are rolling in like it's a hotel opening. Laminated signs about the grand opening for our community pop up overnight. I storm City Hall again, this time with Linda Park, a real estate attorney who doesn't flinch. She walks into Remy's office like a wolf in a petting zoo, lays out satellite maps, deed, history. The whole mountain of proof. Remy tries to play it off some clerical error. Linda smiles. That dangerous lawyer smile, says, My client's deed has been on file since 2017, tax record updated every year. This wasn't a glitch, it was a cover-up. We file for an emergency injunction should have bought us time. But that week the HOA worked double time, night shifts, trucks, crews, everything moving at blitz speed. They were trying to finish before a judge could even look at the case. When I called the foreman out on trespassing, showed him the survey maps, he just pointed at his clipboard. "We got city permission, sir. Talk to the HOA." So Linda fires off a cease and desist letter, 15 pages of documentation, threat of civil litigation. Karen Mason herself calls me voice dripping honey. "Eli," she says, like we're old pals. "I know you're upset, but this is bigger than you. City funding for community enhancements is about to expire. We had to move fast. Besides, you weren't using that land." I tell her it's unstable, a geological red zone. She laughs. "Our contractor said it's probably fine. Think of it as a pop-up spa." I could have told her where to stick her pop-up spa, but she hung up first. By Thursday, the retreat is practically finished. Glass railings, sound systems, palm trees. HOA members sipping wine while a project manager gives tours. I'm invisible, just the guy who pays the taxes. Friday, I show up in court with everything I've got. The judge walks in and says construction was already complete. Karen outpaced the law. The injunction would be enforced retroactively. I could sue, but the damage was done. My bluff was now Ocean Cliff Retreat, a luxury hangout for people who think flamingos are a personality trait. For 2 weeks, the bluff buzzed with sunset mixers and champagne brunches, my land, their playground. I didn't just stew, I documented. Drone flights, photographed soil readings, every nail, every board, every sound. They were throwing parties on a time bomb and acting like they'd discovered paradise. Then the ground moved. Subtle at first, just a shiver underfoot, the kind only geologists feel. I checked the USGS magnitude 4.1 right off the coast. Next morning I send up the drone dust clouds, frantic movement. The entire right wing of the retreat decking jacuzzi cabana gone, collapsed straight into the ocean. The earth sheared off clean like cake off a plate. Lounge chairs, tile umbrellas scattered down the cliff face. Paramedics, firefighters, chaos. A man on a stretcher, blood on his head, city inspectors shaking their heads. That night the news hit. Local channels called it a sudden geological event. Only one reporter asked about permits. Channel 7 found Karen Mason in her branded fleece, big sad eyes. If the property owner had warned us about the instability, maybe this wouldn't have happened. I nearly put my fist through the TV. They blamed me, the owner. The trespassed on, the ignored. Now I was the villain. I was the... Next day, a process server hands me a lawsuit. Ocean Heights View, HOA v. Eli Kramer. They claim I failed to disclose known geological hazards, malicious silence, negligence, bodily harm. They say I had a professional duty as a geologist to warn the community. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done playing defense. They wanted a war fine. I called Linda. "They're suing me," I said. She didn't skip a beat. We go on the offensive. That week was a blur. Motions, evidence, caffeine, countersuit, trespassing, illegal construction zoning violations, ecological destruction, building in a restricted zone. We named everyone: HOA, Karen Mason, the general contractor, the planning officer. But I wanted the world to see this. That's when I called Jamie Lee, a law professor I knew. She turned it into a student case project. Her law students tore into the evidence, built a digital evidence board, even launched a website, Cliffhanger, How HOA Greed Nearly Killed People. It went viral. By Friday, Karen was panicking, screaming defamation. A reporter from the Tribune picked up the story. The headline, "Fault Line Politics, How a Cliffside Power Play Backfired." Dominoes started to fall. Anonymous city employees sent tips. Someone leaked a recording of Karen saying, "If the cliff goes, it goes." My attorney almost choked. Now the district attorney opened an inquiry, hashtags trended, #Cliff Queen had Karen collapse. The law students found the final smoking gun, a 26-year-old geotechnical report warning prohibited active slip zone, landslide risk, buried, never updated. The permit officer, Remy, had ordered a junior clerk to ignore the warning and fast-track the project. Now we had fraud, deception, and city emails tying it all together. We took everything, reports, emails, sworn statements, to the DA's office. The investigation moved fast. The DA's press conference made the evening news. Formal charges against the HOA and city planning officials, permit fraud, destruction of protected land, reckless endangerment. Inside the courthouse, the air crackled. Protesters outside, media vans everywhere. I sat beside Linda, staring at Karen in her beige blazer, stiff as stone. The prosecution laid out every nail, every omission, the old report warning against any construction, the email from Remy, ignore it, fast-track it. Karen's lawyer tried to play the victim, but the student team crushed him, presented their research, the forged application for municipal funding, the fake public mental health program. The verdict came fast. Karen Mason, guilty on 4 felony counts: fraud, reckless endangerment, falsifying documents. Remy disbarred under criminal investigation. The HOA on the hook for nearly $3 million in damages plus fines to the city and state. But I wasn't done. At the final hearing, I walked to the podium and announced I'd lease the cliff, not to developers, but to the university. A living geology lab, public, protected, open for students to study what happens when you ignore the land's warnings. The judge raised her brows. Linda grinned. Karen's jaw locked. For the first time, the applause in that room wasn't for destruction, but for something lasting. A year later, the bluff is alive in a new way. University kids mapping fault lines, sketching out seismic sensors. I visit, sometimes hand out advice. They call it the Mason Fault now, fitting, I guess. Karen serving 14 years in state prison, no parole. Rumor is no one in her prison book club likes her pics. Last interview I gave, the reporter asked, "What'd you learn?" I said. They wanted a view but never cared what held it up. They built on silence, and the land answered. He asked what I'd do different. I laughed. Put the sign up sooner, maybe. Now there's a steel sign at the edge, private property, geologically active, trespassers prosecuted and may fall off a cliff. Your call. Humor helps when you've survived a lawsuit seasoned with stupidity. The earth doesn't forget, and neither do I. So, what do you think? Who was in the wrong here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own HOA nightmares and tell me, do you think justice was served, or is there still work to do out here on the edge?